Welcome to
4Kids Flashback. Hello, welcome to 4Kids Flashback. My name is Tara Sands, and I'm joined by...
Steve Yurko.
That's his name.
Mm-hmm.
Y-U-R-K-O, Yurko.
Yeah.
I did cheerlead for a hot minute,
Oh, yeah?
so I feel like I can get away with that. It was a terrible cheer.
I don't know. How well did the team do? I don't know.
We literally I remember it was like freshman year football, and we yelled offense when they were on defense. I think like we were terrible. We were the Indians, and once we spelled it, like it was like give me an I, and like our team captain missed a letter. Like but like we went to like Busch Gardens and competed.
That's cool.
I didn't know how football was played. I mean,
I played it, and I probably couldn't tell you how half of it's played. I just push guys.
You just because you were like tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not understand how football was played until I started watching Friday Night Lights a few months ago. That is true. And now I feel like I understand it more than I ever did before.
I feel like I got a better understanding of it through reading a manga than actually playing.
Okay, see? You get it. Okay, see this... I mean, I'm not going to say that none of our listeners like sports. I'm not going to make a generalization like that. But I think it's safe to say...
Yeah, I think the majority here, but maybe they are, and good for you. I'm saying
I'd
there's
say
crossover.
that some of them relate to us not knowing a lot about sports. That's what I'm saying. We're in good company, I think. I guess we should talk about what we're here to talk about, which is we're going to interview Wayne Grayson, the coolest name. Yeah, I got a lot of questions from fans for Wayne that I'm hoping we'll get to. Do you have a favorite role of his from 4Kids that you were going to want to talk about today, Steve?
Wow, I can't help but not, think of Joey from Yu-Gi-Oh! Who, I've in life now, I've been called the Joey of the friend group. So,
what makes you what is the adjective or the thing about you that makes you the Joey? It's not the Brooklyn.
No, not even upstate New York.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of just being like the big best friend.
Okay.
It's what was it? Honorable beefcake. I don't know. I've heard it.
Oh, I love that term. We'll ask Wayne if he's heard that. If he's heard Joey described like that.
There's himbo, but then there's honorable beefcake. Was it
honorable beefcake? I want a notebook that says that, like a trapper keeper that says that.
What was it? It's like Joey's like the thug. He's not so much a thug with a heart of gold, but I was never a thug. But people take their first impression of me just by looks. They would think I'm like a bouncer or something. I don't know. That's the thing. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, you must he's like you must love football and you want to be a security guard. I'm like, no, I'm here to talk about.
Because we know what happens when you make assumptions. You assume you make an ass out of you and me. And speaking of asses, our guest is in our Zoom room. No, I'm just kidding. I love him. We're gonna let him in, and we'll get to the show.
Let's do it.
Our guest today worked on literally every single 4Kids production in history. And he's best known for voicing Joey in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Michelangelo in Ninja Turtles. Whoa, I'm going to try to say this. Wally Riki in Go-Go Riki?
Sure, that sounds right.
Sure.
Wally Riki? It was like W-O-L-L, like he was supposed to be...
Yeah.
He was a lamb or a sheep. And they were trying to make some kind of wool reference, but they spelled it. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, so it should have been W-O-O-L, but then they did a...
Woolly Riki, but I don't know.
But my favorite role to say that you played is Spaghettabout-It in Fighting Foodons.
Completely different from Joey Wheeler, yes. One was a human being, played cards, one was a plate of spaghetti, sure.
You know what this show needs? Joey Wheeler in the form of spaghetti.
And they got that. If you what is it? Was that Thumb Wrestlers? What was that show? The spaghetti guy. What was
that was Fighting Foodons.
Was that Fighting Foodons? Oh, yes. How could I forget?
Wait, I'm still introducing you.
Go. I'm sorry.
And this is what I really need to say. Welcome to the show, Wayne Grayson.
Oh, pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I talked all over your introduction, but
I'm so mad. My favorite grumpy old man in the world, Wayne Grayson.
Yes, old before my time. But I'm actually I'm kind of old now, so.
No, you're not. Well, I think we've both always been old people.
Well, my ear doctor today, when I had I'm dead serious. I had a hearing test today.
What happened?
And no, my hearing is messed up. Like I'm getting old.
Aww.
But when I had the hearing test and they explained what was going on with me, they kept saying, "Well, for a young man like yourself," and I was like, "Oh, God bless you, young man like myself." I've been like riding this 51 thing like it's the end of the world. But apparently I'm young.
You can't see him, but he looks amazing.
I dressed up.
Like a newborn.
Wearing my favorite t-shirt.
Here's my favorite fun fact about Wayne. We do conventions together, and he brings this really huge electronic back massager with him. And then like when he has it, he's getting it out right now. It's not a small little. They make small ones.
Here, wait. Guess the object. I swear to you, it's a back massage.
But he'll sit and be talking to fans and massaging his back, and it's the greatest thing you've ever seen.
Sitting there, it takes a toll. Sitting
Should
down.
we talk about 4Kids? Because I don't even want to now. I want to talk about nonsense.
Yeah, how old I feel.
Oh, my God. Well, here's the thing. I researched you today, which I never thought I'd say to you. Yeah, and so you were doing... unlike me, you were doing anime dubbing before you worked at 4Kids.
Yeah. Couple things here and there.
I want you to answer every question just with yes or no.
Fine.
And then just end it in no explanation. I'm sorry. So what did you work on? Like Central Park Media dubs?
Yeah,
stuff
CPM
like that?
stuff. There was a time in the late or mid to late 90s where like somehow, and before technology became as widespread and as easily accessible as it is now, like anybody that had like $1 to waste and a pot to piss in thought they could produce anime, and they would find a way to acquire these properties and just churn out the dubs that were just substandard.
Yeah,
and like a lot of people did not even like they weren't even affiliated with CPM or any of those guys. Like these independent, like I guess they're entrepreneurs is a kind word for what they were, but they thought that they could just produce it. And there were a couple things that they were okay. But we would hire anybody, you know. And
so, how did you get hired?
I was anybody.
How did you become that anybody? Yeah. How did you become anybody, Wayne?
How did I become anybody? I've told this story at conventions. I don't know if you've been on the panels with me when I've been asked this. Like, how do you? Because we love answering these questions.
I wasn't listening. I was just waiting.
And I would expect
you
not to. You're waiting to hear Tara.
Bullshit,
my
question.
name. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
When I was at NYU and I graduated, and I spent the entire time I was there trying to shake my native accent, which is now paying my bills. Because I was trying to be a serious Shakespearean actor, and I got out of college, and I was dirt poor, had nothing to do, had no jobs, and backstage, the print backstage. I don't know if you remember that. Right now, it's all online. Print backstage.
I'm old too.
Every couple of like 3 or 4 times a year, they did that agent portfolio thing where you would send them $100, your headshot and resume, and they put your name and your picture in front of all the casting directors in New York City. Like, wow, that's cool. I found $100 somehow, and I got 2 phone calls as a result of my submitting that. One was from someone I went to college with I never wanted to see or hear from ever again. Didn't return that phone call. And the second was a guy casting anime, and it was Alan Gus at Matlin.
Oh my gosh!
It was somebody. It was
he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. His son just got engaged, but one of his engineers, this guy Darren Hallinan, saw on my resume that I did celebrity impressions and accents and dialects, and he just made the leap and assumed I did voiceovers, and I didn't want to dissuade him of that misconception. And I said, yeah, sure, I do that stuff. And I went in. I didn't know what the 3-beep thing was. I had to learn it
you
at
learned
the audition.
on the job.
Yep, I bullshitted it, and I got my foot in the door, and they knew CPM guys. And actually, they were doing CPM stuff back then.
Was that Matlin? Was that the name of that studio?
Matlin, yes, yeah.
And they had a Kiss pinball machine? Is that?
They did. They had an awesome space on 8th Avenue and 14th Street.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
It was like
I honestly, I love pinball, so anywhere with a good pinball machine, I was happy to go. We did some interesting dubs there. They all bordered on filthy, but like didn't always cross that line.
Yeah, they never really went. That was more like a I don't want to name names, but
yeah, we're not going to. Well, yeah,
other people we've worked with, other studios we've worked with that we should.
Also, I just want to point out that you mentioned already within the first 5 minutes that there was that someone tried to contact you from college that you just never wanted to hear from.
Yeah.
And I love when you hate things. It makes me happy.
That's
today,
why we get along,
It is though, but today, so I know someone that Wayne doesn't care for, and so I sent it. So today I just texted him a video of that person.
Oh, you are so
just
special.
To make you angry.
You did. You got me revved up. Because honestly, there's other shits going on with that guy that we won't talk about. Somebody else said something. But
Steve is giggling now.
He's been in my personal zeitgeist this week, and
okay,
you sending me that
he
video,
doesn't belong there.
No, and you sending me that just kind of was like the nice cherry on top of the sundae.
Oh, I apologize.
That's
but
okay.
I don't. I mean, I don't.
No, you knew what you were doing.
I knew what I was doing. Let's talk about 4Kids. So you're doing this dubbing stuff.
Yeah.
The first show, obviously, that 4Kids auditioned people for was Pokémon. Right. Were you in that first round of auditions?
As I recall, I did audition for it, and I didn't book anything, and I had major sour grapes about that for about a year.
Okay.
I have a picture somewhere in my photo album of me flipping off a cardboard standee of Ash in the I don't know if it's there anymore. There was a Kmart or a Walmart in the village. It's not there anymore. But it's me just flipping on with intent. Right
Let me hear your Ash voice. I bet you do a great Ash voice. Bring it on.
I'm Veronica Taylor, something Pika Pika. I don't know. Is it something like that?
That's so good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's dead on.
I can't believe you didn't get it.
It's
Steve,
like she was here.
Steve was a kid watching it. Wouldn't you have related more to that voice?
He sounds just like me.
Yes.
Fellow 10-year-old.
There you go. Yeah. Chain-smoking 10-year-olds.
Oh, I want to see that show.
Chain-smoking 10-year-old.
So wait, were you not with us? Were you with us when we saw it at Radio City Music Hall Pokemon Live?
I was not. No, I told you when I didn't get cast, I was really just anti that show, and then I changed my opinion. Yeah, when I started.
So okay, now your friends were all working at 4Kids.
No, wait, no. You got to flip that. I met them all.
Oh no, actually, not all all of them.
I knew Tony ahead of time. I knew Tony. From stuff.
Tony Salerno.
I knew. Sorry, Anthony Hayden Salerno.
That's right.
I knew him. I did a couple of jobs with Central Park Media through him, and I remember going to Staten Island and having to have this weirdo pick me up at the ferry station and drive a half an hour.
Oh yeah,
that
was. We've talked about that on this
sketch. So I knew him from that and some other stuff, and then I kind of knew Ted because he and I. It was insular with the dubbing one at a time. I didn't really meet him in person, but I know he and I had crossed paths in one of the mid-90s entrepreneur guy. Bless you.
Sorry, I sneezed. Thank
shows.
You. Wait, I thought you were buddies with these guys before that, so I have my facts wrong.
Yeah, you're a terrible interviewer.
I'm the worst.
You've done no research. No, Greg and Tony.
Spaghettabout-It.
Spaghettabout-It. You knew that. I forgot that. Greg and Tony and Dan went to Rutgers together. They all knew each other ahead of time.
I just lump you in with them. That's
well,
so
everyone
bad.
does. Well, back in the heyday of 4Kids, weren't we called the boy band? All of us and Ollie Wyman and those guys were all kind of lumped together.
You were like a gang.
We were a gang.
Speaking of which. You made nicknames for a lot of us back then.
I did. Yeah, well, it was a different time.
Well, I was gonna say we won't say all of them, but the ones we can. They all ended in baby.
Yeah, well, let me explain that the baby
you
thing. I knew I was really good friends with these brothers I did a lot of theater with back in the Lower East Side in the mid to late 90s, and the older brother, this guy. His name, I won't say last name, but his name is Jerry. His name is Jerry. And he was kind of like this hipster guy. He was like 10 years older than me, but he still tried to be young.
It was Jerry Springer. It was Jerry Springer, wasn't it?
It was Jerry Seinfeld. He and I, what was the deal there? I don't know, with the theater. But
I'm sorry, go on. I'll stop
the actual Jerry, he was kind of a hipster guy and liked a lot of the beat poetry stuff. He fancied himself a poet, and he was a playwright and actually a really good guy. And he would just call people baby all the time. And it wasn't creepy because he was a harmless guy. He didn't mean any harm. So I just appropriated his baby and just applied it to the 4Kids female population, shall we say.
Right. No, it was never offensive because it always was like a tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But we had different names based on our personalities and physical structures.
So it wasn't sexist at all.
No, but like I was short, so I was tiny baby.
You were tiny, and you remembered it. Good, yes, you were tiny baby.
Because I was short, but I was never like upset by that. I'm trying to remember the other ones. Baby who has a baby.
That was what we called Veronica Taylor for a while.
Yeah, because that was literal.
She was a baby, and she had a baby.
Yeah.
Megan was yoga baby.
Yoga, right? Because she does yoga.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, not offensive yet.
No, Susie Goldish was Sonic Baby or something.
Sonic Baby,
Sonic,
probably.
or Audio Baby. There was another engineer, Michelle Darling, and she was very hippie and like earthy, and we used to call her Crunchy Baby because of granola and all that stuff.
Did the boys have names or no? You didn't have nicknames for the boys?
No, I don't think so. Well, no.
Oh, now it's sexist.
I mean,
okay.
No. Well, no, we would like, yeah. I mean, Ted is Teddles, and Greg was the Abinator, and things like that. I mean,
all right. Well, this wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. No offense. I asked the question.
You made the turn into that lane.
I did. Steve, are you bored?
No, I was gonna say you could just attach some babies to those male nicknames, and then.
Hey.
Okay, so you're bitter about not working on Pokemon, but you get this audition for some weird show called Yu-Gi-Oh! With an exclamation mark at the end of the title.
Yes, and 2 hyphens.
2 hyphens.
Dashes,
what did you think? What did you do? Where'd you go?
Let's see. So that was in 01, and I was doing a terrible play. Again, on the Lower East Side, but it was terrible.
We all did those.
Yeah, but I was still doing it then. I didn't make my bones in voiceover yet, I guess. But I got a call. Eric called me. Eric Stewart called me. I don't know how he got my number. Someone maybe in the Pokemon production just, hey, this guy's pretty good. Give him a call. And he called me, and he sounded like how Eric sounds on the phone. He was trying to pitch it to me, and I mean he wooed me. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come and read for this thing. And I remember looking at it and going, okay, this is Pokemon, but with like slightly older kids and less little creatures, or fewer.
Right. Another
fewer
card
creatures.
game.
Yeah, another card game. And I mean, I went in and Ohad, the engineer, he was in control of that audition. He was recording it, and I remember that they'd said, again, this is a convention panel story, but people will say like, how'd you come up with the Brooklyn accent for Joey? And I remember that they'd said in the breakdowns that Joey was from the streets, and at the time the streets meant New York, and New York meant Brooklyn, and I was living in Brooklyn, so that's where I came from. But while I was recording it, and I was doing the Joey voice, pretty much it came out the way it eventually became. Ohad had gone like, yes, you need to go back because this does not sound like a Brooklyn accent. And I was like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that in a Brooklyn accent to me? Because that doesn't really sound like what a Brooklyn accent is. And
what part of New York did you grow up in, actually? I mean,
Long
I don't
Island.
know where.
Yeah.
Okay, so very close to Brooklyn.
Sure, yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but he
closer to Brooklyn than Ohad. Yeah.
Very much closer than Ohad.
So that was that was my question. It didn't say Brooklyn specifically in the notes, but it implied an accent, and yeah.
Okay. I mean, but that's what was going on at the time with voiceover casting too. Was like the streets meant New York, and New York meant Brooklyn, and Brooklyn meant tough, and everyone D's and does instead of these and those,
Right.
which up until maybe the 3rd season, they still wrote the script phonetically for me.
No.
Like I wasn't going to say D's. It's like all of a sudden I'm going to go, hey, we should take these guys over there and
all
take care
R's
of
come out.
this business,
Oh my
hey,
God, and now...
come on, Yug. Like, I'm going to do the voice. It's D-E-R-E.
I want to hear Joey British.
Oh, my sister Serenity.
Do you remember getting the call that you got the job?
I do remember getting the call that I got the job. Again, I was still working on that terrible show and having just a bad time and kind of getting burnt out on theater for a while. But because of the Pokemon experience, I didn't think that much of getting the job, the Yu-Gi-Oh job. I didn't really put too much gravity. It didn't seem like I made it. It wasn't a big ta-da moment for me until I really started working on it. And then I got into it, and then I realized how because I don't know if Pokemon really took off until after I booked Yu-Gi-Oh! Or around the time, like it didn't become the phenomenon it eventually became.
Right.
So I knew it existed.
It was starting to grow.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was as popular as it became. If I did, maybe then I would have been a little... No, if I did, then maybe I would have been a little more gobsmacked about getting Yu-Gi-Oh!
Right. Because again, it was just... I know for me too, it was just another anime until it exploded.
Exactly.
Because we had worked on so many that, well, I hadn't, but you guys had worked on so many.
Yeah, the CPM stuff and the Media Blaster stuff, that was okay. That was fun, but it was what it was. It went direct to video, and nobody ever heard of it unless the fans heard of it. That wasn't.
Did you do what I did? I used to go when I worked on that stuff. I used to go to Tower Records.
Yeah.
And read the reviews in those obscure anime magazines of those animes, because they would review all of them, because again, not that much was put out. So right. That was the only place I was getting reviewed. I was like, ooh, there might be a review about me. You didn't do that?
I did that maybe like after the fact, again, because like I didn't know the impact that Yu-Gi-Oh was going to have while I was working initially, so I didn't know.
This was the obscure stuff.
This really? You're talking before that. No,
I
didn't. No, yeah. I didn't really look for that stuff. I didn't really.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I just got I thought it was funny because again, it all seemed so weird to me that I was like, someone's taking the time to to watch this and review it. I can't believe it.
And pay attention to my performance and critique it.
Yeah, I thought that was insane, but cool. So you start working. Was Eric Stewart your first director on Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, Eric was the first director. He says that Joe Shallak was one of the engineers initially, but I remember Joe coming into the mix a lot later. I remember Sean Conrad was there.
Yeah, Sean was definitely there early.
And God, I can't remember. Mike Knobloch wasn't there yet.
Not early on.
No. Yeah, those guys all kind of moved on.
So you start recording, and then did you know what a big role Joey was, or did you have no clue?
No, I had no idea. I mean, I don't think I did, because I wasn't familiar at all with the property. It existed before we worked on it. Obviously, there was the manga and the original Japanese anime, but yeah, I didn't. I mean, I like playing the sidekicks anyway, because they're more fun for me, and there's less pressure to be the hero and carrying the whole show on your shoulders. So I was pretty happy that it was a sidekick role, but it was substantial. Like he was in like every episode, or pretty much every episode.
Before you came on, Steve and I were describing Joey, because Steve said he's the Joey of his friend group.
But well, I could tell from your hair, yeah.
Oh yeah,
the term.
Yeah.
I'll do respect.
Full head of it, yeah.
But what was the term you used to describe Joey that I thought I wanted to ask Wayne if he had heard that phrase?
Honorable beefcake.
Yeah.
Honorable beefcake. That's
I love that.
First time I've ever heard that phrase at all, let alone applied to my character. But I'll take it. Honorable beefcake.
Who are you among your in your friend group? Are you if you had to go by the Yu-Gi-Oh crew or the Turtles crew, are you like any of those? I'm trying to imagine who you are in that. Because there's not an old man with a massager.
No, there's not. Or a short guy with a beard.
Maybe your grandpa from Yu-Gi-Oh.
I did play grandpa for a while.
So maybe that's
after Maddie passed. But I don't think. I mean, there's bits and pieces, because people always ask me too, what are my favorite roles, and I always say it's a tie between Joey and Mikey. Depending on where I am. If it's a full-on anime convention, I gotta say Joey, because that's all I'm seeing is people liking Joey. Because I see myself in both those guys, but not fully. I have the chip on my shoulder like Joey. I'll make impulsive decisions like Joey and like Mikey. I'm not as cowabunga-y as Mikey. Even back when I was doing the role, when I was closer to being a teenager than I am now, I wasn't really as youthful and optimistic and energetic as Mikey.
Right. I have a fun drinking game for you.
Yes. Good.
Next time you're at a convention, every time someone asks you a question with the word favorite in it, you take a shot.
Drunk by 10 a.m.
Yes. How are you liking doing the conventions? Because this is fairly new to you, and meeting the fans. Did you know that this fandom existed?
Well, and Dan and I, we talk about this all the time. We were, and Mark Thompson, the three of us, we were fans of the stuff before we were working on it. In general, not these specific shows, but I remember
Turtles and
I was big. Yeah,
I
went to my comic shop out in Long Island when I was a kid, and people from Mirage Studios brought a box of Turtles comics, pretty much when they first came out. I was 10 years old, and I didn't know what it was, but it just and they knew what they were doing when they marketed that, because it's those four words together. Something just is in your brain, wow, that's interesting. I should check that out. So I got into that property real early on, and I was a lifelong comic book fan. And I liked anime too. It wasn't. I mean, there was almost nothing out when we were younger. There was Battle of the Planets and Speed Racers, Star Blazers, and Robotech, that kind of thing. But I was into it. So when I was aware of the fandom, I would go to conventions when I was a kid and younger, come into the city.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I would go. Yeah, but they weren't like they are now. Like
No.
Comic-Cons were comic books. There wasn't all this media stuff happening and or any like crazy. There were costumes, but nowhere near as elaborate as they are now. But people tried, and so I was aware of this stuff, and I was a fan. So when I go to the conventions now, there's the kindred spirit thing happening with the fans because I know what it was like when I would go and meet these celebrities, quote unquote, that we were going to talk to and get their autographs and everything. But it's something. Ted and I will talk about this. We're always amazed at the end of the day how goddamn tired we are.
Yes.
Because we just sit there. I mean, we're sitting down. I mean, yeah, we're writing stuff, but we don't get carpal. It's not tired in your hand. Like you're not getting carpal tunnel or arthritis, but just like the emotional and the intellectual and the cerebral intensity you got to generate for hours.
Well, if you do it right.
If you do it right, yeah.
I got really upset this weekend, I'll be honest. A fan was talking to me, and I love engaging with them. Like I spend too much time, if anything. And this fan was so sweet, and she told me that she had met some of our castmates and how amazing they were. And then she told me about someone else she had met recently. Of course, I won't name them, but
Beep
who
it
just
out.
like just yeah. I'll tell you after. I'll put it in the chat.
Yay.
But who just was very dismissive and like was just going through the line fast and took a picture and like. It's someone I know well enough to know that like they're much more interesting than that, and that they, I think, would be sad if they knew that that was the impression they were giving. And and I, again, like we're tired, and I hate getting on the plane and going places, but what a privilege to like sit at a table and sign autographs, and if the worst side effect of it is that we're exhausted.
There are worse
we're
things.
lucky.
Yeah, that's kind of like you mentioned my buddy, my massage wand. That's why. I'm sitting in that same position. And the thing is, like I mentioned earlier too, like my hearing is shot. So you're in these convention halls that are loud anyway. Yeah. Even if it's empty, it's loud because it's just cavernous and echoey. But then you have people coming up to you in elaborate costumes and maybe a COVID mask on underneath that. And they're shy. And I can only say excuse me or what so many times where it just becomes ridiculous. And I feel bad for like them and for myself.
Yeah, because you want to give them a great experience.
Yeah. Like I say, I was on the other side of that table for so long when I was a kid. I know what it's like. It's daunting. I mean, I always tell people when they come up and they're a little nervous, or they say they're nervous, or they're just like you can tell their hands are shaking and whatever. I'm going, hey, I'm just a guy, and it's like I can say that now, but I was on the other side of the table, and it was flipped. Like you're in awe of these people that do this work you love. No, you're very kind to everybody. And like after that person told me that, I went and sat at a friend's table for a minute and watched him interact. I went and sat with Max Middleman, actually, who you don't know, but I know who he is.
And there was a little girl who came to his table and he let her pick out all the colors that she wanted for the autograph. And it just like restored my faith in humanity. So, okay. Back to 4Kids. Stop getting me off topic, Wayne. I'm just kidding.
You're driving this thing.
I'm
just a passenger.
Badly.
Changing the radio station.
I'm looking at your IMDb now, your IMDb's.
My IMDb.
I know you worked on really, I mean, more shows than I think a lot of people did there, like because you stayed in New York, so you were on the Shaman Kings and the Go-Go Riki that I had never even heard of.
Yeah.
Do any of those stand out? I mean, we're going to get into Turtles more and how unique that experience was. Is there anything about those other shows, or did they all kind of mush together for me at a certain point? But
some of them mushed together. But you were there in like the nadir, the heyday of 4Kids, when we were just churning out all those shows. There was like 10 or 15 shows happening at the same time, and maybe 20 actors going from Pro Tools booth to Pro Tools. Yeah, I mean, it was, and then we passed in the hallway, and I mean, the ones that were really unique would stand out, obviously, because a lot of them were kind of card game based, and just it's hard to discern which is which. But then there was like weird stuff like that Ultimate Muscle thing, where we just like, hey, can you kind of do a vague French accent? You got the role, and you'd be in there, and there's an episode of Ultimate Muscle where I'm playing a wrestler, wrestling another wrestler, being coached by myself. And I have a VHS tape of this.
It's great.
Carol Weissman gave it to me because it was me coaching myself, fighting myself. Because I was able to do a German accent, an Austrian accent, and a Brazilian accent. and not having the sound at all remotely
Steve
the same.
knows exactly what you're talking
All
about.
right. Yeah.
Do you know the scene? Do you remember this?
Well,
he watched it. Yeah.
Well,
it's Jaeger, Brocken Jr., and Ricardo. If
Ricardo, that's right. Yeah.
Were you as unaware as I was that all these edits and changes were being made to all these shows?
Yeah, I was pretty much completely unaware. Like, I think the one that stands out the most is there was an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where Bandit Keith pulls a gun on Pegasus, and they got rid of the gun. And he's just kind of pointing with his hand, but the hand is holding something, but there's nothing in his hand. And it didn't come into my mind that it was a standards and practices thing. I just thought it was just badly done. Like, why didn't they put a gun in there? He's clearly holding a gun. And I just thought that was the one that's first made me aware of the fact that edits were being made. But as Eric says all the time, first of all, the network was, or the company was 4Kids. It's in the name. This is 4Kids. We can't promote violence. We can't celebrate violence. We can't have questionable material.
They would have been sued.
Yeah, they would have been sued. And I was on a panel with Eric at Smoky Mountain Fest, and he was talking about, and he actually elaborated more. Maybe he's answered the question more often than me. But the fact that they made it kid accessible opened the door to other stuff in the anime world. Oh, this is happening. What else you got? So it actually was, in the long run, probably a better thing, a very beneficial thing to happen to the industry in general. You know?
Oh, totally. It just would have sat. I always say it would have sat at like Kim's Underground Video downtown, and no one ever would have seen it, possibly. Yeah. Or it would have just been so hard to get your hands on.
Sure, and the diehard fans can find the unedited stuff. Like there's bootleg videos from decades ago that they can find. They have ways. They're smart. They're relentless.
Well,
it used to not be as easy.
Internet.
Well, yeah,
tell him, Steve.
I will say no. I remember it not being that easy. I remember there were like these. I would go to conventions at the Holiday Inn in Rockville Center, Long Island, and when I was a kid, and they'd have the anime guy was there. We had one tiny table, but he had like Pat Labor and Star Blazers and stuff like that. But like in the original Japanese, subtitled and terribly duped and like all grainy. But people were. They were making good money selling that stuff illegally.
Sort of the thrill of the hunt is a little bit gone.
That's way gone. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm a collector. Like I was talking to some collectors this weekend. Like I collect Pez dispensers, and I used to go to garage sales and flea markets. Yeah. And now it's just about how much money I want to spend on eBay.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge comic book collector. You know that. When we were in Denver, you and I were in Denver, the birthplace of Mile High Comics, which is like this immense touchstone, an icon of comic book retail selling. And I went there and I was just depressed. I went there with our agent. I went in there. Wow, it looked like a giant garage sale, and it wasn't very impressive. But I missed the throw of the hunt, like you're saying, because now I was looking for specific things that they didn't have, and I thought they would because they're the largest retailer. They didn't have it, and then when we were done with that Denver show, I came home and almost immediately went on the internet and was like, oh, let me just check this out. Click, 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 and I bought them.
And you got it.
I got it. Yeah.
It's just not. It's not as much fun.
It was a hunt, but it was like a hunt from your chair is different than going to the store and rifling through a comic bin or going to a flea market and trying to find like a Kermit the Frog Pez dispenser. Or,
I mean, there's a huge reason why people aren't hanging out at malls anymore.
Yeah,
I miss that.
I mean, as a kid that like collected toys, I do miss that hunt of like going to the store. I'm like, maybe they restocked today.
I used to go to the mall, and when I was buying action figures, and I would find like a specific Batman or a Green Lantern action figure, and I didn't have the money, so I just put it in the back of the rack, like
they used to hide them,
the pegboard thing. But, hey, there's like 17 Hulks. I'm going to put Green Lantern behind there, and it'll be there in 2 days when I have $8.
I still distinctly remember finding my first Power of the Force Yoda action figure.
Kudos.
In Toys R Us. That was like, I remember it was a long run to the back, and then when we got there and we saw him, it wasn't I'm sorry, I'm getting too specific here. I feel like Wayne might get this. I was saying, like, it wasn't the red card Yoda, it was the green card Yoda, but still.
I do get that.
Yoda. Yeah. Going back to the 4Kids, though, talking about, these dubs being, targeted towards kids and with the edits and all that. I feel bad for asking you this, but I think I recall you're the only voice actor I've ever seen comment on the uncut dubs that you briefly did for Yu-Gi-Oh! And Shaman King. My first question is, do you recall doing these uncut dubs?
I do recall the Shaman King one, and then there was I think there was
Yu-Gi-Oh.
a Yu-Gi like season 0 they called it or something like that. Or
no, it was the original the series that you guys did from the start. But
it was the exact shows. It was the exact episodes we did rewritten and the same cast performing them. I forgot about this, but
yeah, I forgot about that too. I don't really remember that. The Shaman King is fairly recent, or not recent, but it's more fresh in my mind.
Because that actually it's resurfaced on Blu-ray,
and they kind of like there's a pretty significant retool of that. But they did Yu-Gi-Oh. I didn't know. I mean, I'm sure I worked on it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I only asked because I think I remember hearing that someone asked you at a convention what happened to those DVDs, and you've given like the only clear answer I've ever seen.
What did I say? Do you remember?
If I don't know where I saw, I apologize. I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth.
It might spark my memory.
I remember seeing this somewhere. Someone said, "Oh yeah, I asked Wayne Grayson what happened to the like uncut Yu-Gi-Oh and Shaman King DVDs," and I think your answer was, I think your answer was, how many people in this room have bought those DVDs? Like no hands were raised, and you said that's why.
That sounds very much the Wayne Grayson brand.
That's exactly what you would have said.
Yeah.
I bring it up just because it's been an ongoing not mystery, but a mystery. But I think like I've been very curious about those dubs, and Tara doesn't remember doing them.
No recollection.
But there's a point to be made there, though. It's like if you're going to demand these things, then you got to put up the money too. You gotta, otherwise we're not gonna make them because this stuff costs money. They gotta pay us.
My guess is I wonder if we fully re-recorded or if we thought there were pickups and we just did whatever changed and we just looked at it as pickups and didn't even think about it as anything different. Yeah. Do you remember working on One Piece? I don't have many memories of it. What do you recall from that? I
remember that every script had about 9,000 characters and they were mislabeled constantly. I remember Chris Collet always looked like he was going to have a heart attack directing it. He was always stressed. He was always stressed out, and he's a wonderful guy. I love him. He's a great guy.
Best.
And he was a good director too. But he always, no matter what time of day I went in there to work with him, it could be 10 a.m. It could be 4 in the afternoon, right after lunch, before lunch, whatever. He'd always be like almost in a cold sweat, and just trying to figure out his life and like why he's doing what he's doing. But he was a great director. It's just they would do things like they'd start labeling the pirates, Pirate A, Pirate B, Pirate C, and then decide, let's number them now, and be Pirate 1, 2, 3. So we had to figure out which frickin' pirate we're talking about because he was A on page 2, but it's clearly the same character on page 10, but he's Pirate 1 now.
You're so right, and like in every show, like, and then we weren't working off of enormous screens. Like,
no.
Or am I misremembering? So we're wait, I think that's him in the background. Is that his line or the other pirate?
Yeah.
Oh, that one has 2 eye patches. It must be him. Steve, does this help you understand what happened at 4Kids when we did this show now?
I mean, it's shedding a little bit of light, but yeah, if that show was hectic back then, the amount of bit rolls that need to be cast per episode now.
Those are worse.
But
I know that the mislabeling of the pirates, Chris Collet's pallor, and the fact that every dude was like, we're doing pirate voices because every guy likes a pirate voice. It's such an easy thing to do, and it's fun. So we were all happy to get the role just to do that. The roles just to do that. The accent of the voice. Of the pirate.
You eventually, if I'll stay on One Piece specific for a moment. You were slated, at least in the video games, you're going to be the next main villain. I'm curious if you remember playing Eneru at all, and if you were waiting for, all right, when are we going to start doing these episodes? And I guess we're not.
Well, no, I remember. Eneru was identified to me about 2 weeks ago. My agent's best friend made a print. A new print for me to sell at conventions, and he had a couple of my characters, and there was a guy in the middle, and I'm like, who is that, dude? And he's going, that's Eneru. Was he a One Piece guy? He's like, yeah, you played Eneru. Okay, I have a name to put to the character now. I played that guy, and eventually it clicked, and I remember playing him, but the name sounded really strange. And then just because One Piece at 4Kids ended with such a whimper, like it just stopped.
Yeah.
There was no, at least a lot of the shows we did didn't have closure, so to speak. but we knew they were ending. You know, like I knew when
Right.
Yu-Gi-Oh ended that it was the end, even though there wasn't some big denouement or like any resolution of major plot lines that we had been dangling for a while. But we knew it was over. One Piece just kind of faded away, as I recall.
Yeah, because another company picked up the rights,
Right,
and
yeah.
then they just stopped. They just
But hey, I was supposed to be the main bad guy. That's interesting.
Yeah. So if you don't recall, it kind of makes sense because it was just in the video games.
Yeah, I remember the
but,
video
like,
games definitely.
a couple of them at least. So.
In fact, now it's kind of coming back to me. I'm remembering seeing Inaru on the script on the side for a video game script. I'm remembering it now. It's all the clouds are parting.
So my next question is, you worked on 2 of the original animated shows at 4Kids, both Ninja Turtles and
Yes.
Chaotic. Is that correct?
I did.
I got it right.
Yes, you did. I didn't do much on Chaotic because I think that was kind of, they were trying to find their feet on that for a while, and there was some, not trouble, but just inconsistency with casting. They weren't really sure what they wanted. So I know I was on it, but no way I could tell you who I played. And that was another card game thing, right?
That is actually that was part of my chaotic question, is just, could you tell how chaotic it was?
It was appropriately named.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people credit that as being part of the reason that 4Kids had the money trouble they did, and because they had issues with that show. And hopefully we'll talk to someone who was more involved in it. But more importantly, let's talk a little bit about Turtles.
Oh, is the turtle thing important? Is that significant to my career?
Okay, now, was Turtles one of the comic books you did have Turtles?
Absolutely.
Comic books.
Yeah,
so you
I still have
must have
them,
been psyched.
I was
when
totally.
you got that audition.
See, that was when you'd mentioned earlier about the how psyched was I to get the Yu-Gi-Oh job, and I was kind of blasé about it because I wasn't really sure of the impact it had. Getting the audition for Turtles blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that 4Kids even had that
Yeah.
was amazing to me. And then I went in and they had played stuff from the first live action movie, and I was kind of happy about that because let's not do the 80s thing again. Let's try and reinvent this because the 80s thing is irrelevant now in 02 or 03 when we started working on that. So they would do clips from the live action movie, which sort of holds up. I saw it recently at a convention. It's not great. It's the turtle suits themselves are actually pretty cool. They hold up. But anyway, they played clips for us from that as references, just not to copy it, but just we're looking for that kind of vibe. And Mikey was my favorite as a kid, and not that I gave less than 100% to the other 3 characters that I read for, but I really had my heart set on Mikey, and I was really over the moon to get that part. It was cool. That was the this is awesome.
Was that the first time you recorded with other cast members? Had you done any other animation that worked like that before? Or had all your work been dubbing?
Yeah, I think it all been dubbing or like audiobooks and things like that, but nothing to the extent that Turtles was pretty much a radio play. It was just the 4 of us there at the same time, and
it felt like
getting to play off each other. Yeah, it was really and the fact that the 4 of us got along so well, and were able to rib each other like brothers and make fun of each other, that would eventually find their way into the script. And there's a story I tell about how we'd be cutting up in the booth, and I was doing just in Mikey's voice doing Arnold Schwarzenegger, so they put that in an episode because it sounded kind of funny. It's like, I'm doing the mic, and he was like, I was the Terminator, and they were like, oh, we got to put that in the script, and they did. It was pretty funny.
See, and we felt like it felt like show business. No, that was the wrong word, but it felt fancy. It felt
like real acting.
Exciting.
It really felt like real acting. I mean, not that we weren't acting in other shows, but this was like we're acting off of each other, not something that was recorded
reacting.
4 or 5 days ago from somebody. Yeah, not reacting or acting first in a dub and then hoping people will kind of get on your energy and have a scene going. Now, did you ever go in the booth with us, Tara, when we did Turtles? Yeah.
Thank you for remembering.
I remember you were on it. There's that.
No.
But
Sam, I will tell you, we interviewed
like?
Sam, and he remembered that I played a street kid.
I remember that you played
I
Street Kid.
was shocked that he remembered that. No, I played Angel, who apparently is in the comic books.
Angel is in the comic books.
But I was so excited because I feel like I wasn't, I even have in my date book, I found the date that I auditioned for Turtles because I really was hoping to work on it.
Yeah.
And
what was it like to be in the booth with the 4 of us idiots?
Well, I feel like everyone built it up. Like everyone wanted to be working with you guys. It was like the buzz was how much fun that show was to work on. There were Pizza Wednesdays. You guys were like, you were all my buddies, and the idea of being in the booth with you guys was so exciting. And I remember like getting nervous for like the first time. Like because after, I mean, listen, not that voiceover work, not that it's old hat, but like we'd done the job. We knew the directors. Like this was a new director. I mean, you could talk about working with Sue and I was nervous.
And Sue had chops. Like she's pedigree. Like not that the people that we worked with that were directing at 4Kids were like not talented directors, like I mentioned Chris before, but Sue, and I didn't really know her until it got out that she was working on it, and then I heard like her credits, and these are shows I actually watched these when I was younger. I wasn't a big GoBots fan, but I knew what the property was, and I recognized her voice from that. And she was such a great character, like as a person. She was so awesome, and just in this phone patch thing, because we would do things that you had to be in the room to get, like jokes, because it was before Zoom, you know. And she would just kind of laugh, and if she didn't get it, she didn't give a shit. We're like, oh, okay, well, it's funny anyway. Right. You guys are having a good time, you know?
Well, and just to tack on to what you said before, it wasn't that the directors we had worked with weren't good, but they were our peers.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They were our age. They were learning on the job, too. And a lot of them hadn't directed before. Suddenly, here was this person from California.
Yeah. The phone patch. You know?
Yeah.
Phone patching. Remember phone patching?
Now it's ISDN or...
Yeah.
So I know, like, you and I have talked about this, and Megan talked about you a little in her interview. Some of the frustrations of working at 4Kids.
Megan talked about frustrations?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Not Megan, not LaDunaway. She did.
What was her baby? Oh, Yoga Baby. Yoga Baby turned into LaDunaway. Did you? I mean, I know we've talked about this. The frustrations of the way we were not treated as like part of the company at 4Kids. Like maybe not. We felt no job security, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think the only time I really felt like it was part of a team was with Turtles, because that was like their original property. They had a lot of like not only money but just their attention was focused. They were really like, we want to make this into something. And it's already an established property. It's something that's got a fan base. This could really be something significant for the company. Yeah. So I think they maybe cared a little bit more, and they embraced us as actors and as people more than they had before. I don't want to name names again, but there was a story that I tell. Do you remember Pokémon Jirachi Wishmaker? That was one of the movies.
Yeah.
So I was the main bad guy in that, and there was a rap party at a local bar near 4Kids.
I've heard this story. Yeah.
And I got stopped at the door by someone who worked in production who didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
They didn't want to let me in. And I was like, I had 4,000 lines in this thing. I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
You don't know who I am.
I can't even believe there was a rap party. Like, you even saying that surprises me. Yeah, I mean...
Well, we used to have rap parties and Pizza Wednesdays. We had all that stuff.
We had Pizza Wednesdays. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, and I don't want to sound... And again, we signed bad contracts. Like, I don't want to sound ungrateful. We knew what we were doing. So, yeah, we knew what we were doing. But it still was the case. And I think Megan and I did talk about this, too. It's such an odd business where you have to have a certain amount of confidence and ego to just be an actor. But you also then have to feel like you could be replaced at any time.
Well, sure. Yeah.
You know, like we were told they would go to Canada if we wanted more money and things like that.
Sound alike and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a threat. Sure. Yeah.
Let's move on to questions from Wayne. You have so many fans and they have so many questions.
It's tough being this adorable.
You've worked on different. So this was a question from someone named Pika Master 542.
542.
542.
Yes. Right.
One was taken, obviously. You've worked on different versions of Yu-Gi-Oh over the years. Is there a major difference in the style of them, or how you I don't know the different versions, to be totally honest. You probably do more than I do.
Well, to my knowledge, there are 7 series so far that have been produced, and an 8th on the way. And I've been told by Darren Dunstan that I'm the only actor that's appeared in all 7. Now, I know that I have appeared in all 7, but I think I'm not the only one. I think Mark may be tied with me.
Mark Thompson.
Mark Thompson, yeah.
Fair enough.
And I think, it's weird because sometimes it's always the card game is always crucial to the show. There's always the lead character and their little posse of pals. But it gets, I think the further along it gets, the weirder it gets.
Our next question comes to us from Lost Media Detect 1. I shouldn't put the at form. Do you remember the audition process for Daigo on Ultraman Tiga?
Ultraman Tiga, yeah. That was probably the first live action dub I'd done. And I'm not really sure, like, I think we talked about Kalish. Kalish was the producer on that, John Kalish. And he had some specific ideas, and I thought it would be kind of cool, and when we were working on the show too, we thought it'd be kind of cool if, because it was live action and a lot of the shots were from the back or helmets are on so you couldn't see the lips, like, why don't we just dub it and make it funny? Like,
it
really,
was taken more seriously than I...
Yeah, I mean, there were funny bits to it. Like, it wasn't the most serious show in the first place, but I always thought, and Eric thought this, and Dan and these guys were like, why don't we just go full 9 and make this just silly? And we didn't, but I mean, I felt that it was going to be silly when I went to the audition, because seeing what it was and the rubber monsters and everything, like, hadn't really changed since the 60s. That kind of technology is, okay, this could be kind of fun.
It was more earnest than I think any of us thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
From @HollyWah909. 27984. That's gotta be a bot. But this is what this bot says. I want the backstory behind Cyrus Truesdale voice from Wayne Grayson. Also, I want to meet him. So Hollywa 909-279-4 wants to meet you.
I'll answer the second part first. Come to a convention.
Yeah.
I do these things. Yeah, go to conventions. They're always fun. I would love to meet you too. Yeah, Cyrus was like that was GX. That was the second iteration of Yu-Gi-Oh! And my second sidekick. And other than the hair situation, he was completely different than Joey. A lot shorter. He seemed like a lot more, certainly not as street smart or from Brooklyn, to use the parlance of 2001 at 4Kids. So he seemed like he was younger, and they wanted to be, because Matt Charles was playing Jaden, and he had kind of a youthful, exuberant voice, but they wanted it to be different than Yugi in the first series, so not Grandpa, but high pitched. And I kind of had the nasally thing. That's just where my voice goes when it gets high. It just becomes all in my nose. So they settled on that being this whiny thing, and he was always in trouble anyway and messing up. And as opposed to Joey, he would mess up and just kind of laugh it off. Cyrus would mess up and just dwell on it and get all anxious. So it was a neurotic thing that was just in my brain.
I think neurotic is fun to play.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably the same. Because I don't really particularly enjoy doing that voice, but the character itself, like behind the voice, is fun to do. As far as a backstory, though, I don't. That's as far as we go with that. I don't really know.
Well, we have another question coming in hot from @RedFlames.
Ooh.
I like this one. This is a question I hadn't gotten this question before, and I like it. Was there a voice actor you really respected at 4Kids that made you want to do even better and work harder?
No, they all stink.
Yeah, that's what I was actually hoping you were going to say.
No, everybody. I in retrospect, I think back, and it's been so long since we started working there. There were really no lemons except for Lemon Krasny. There was nobody bad.
That was her name. Yes.
Nobody was inherently like, I would go, what is that? Like, there was nobody. But to be specific, I mean, Mark Thompson is amazing. He's got incredible versatility, sweetest guy, and talented, and a nerd. I'm sorry, a geek, because nerds are good at math. He knows the different versions of X-Men and all the Avengers and Star Trek.
Yeah, his work is consistently really good.
And he's a professional, and he's not snobby about it. He's really approachable. I kind of like to have his talent and his capacity to tolerate other human beings.
Yeah, it's weird when there's another 4Kids actor right in the Zoom call that you went with Mark Thompson, but that's cool.
I can't get this. Yeah. Hey, I said everybody. You're part of it.
No. I actually, someone like Mark is someone where all of a sudden they elevate the material. And I totally agree with that. That's a great answer. Okay. Mackenzie Walked 1, there's a lot of numbers in these names, wants to know if you your thoughts on playing Brandon on Winx Club. Is that something you remember?
I do remember Winx Club. Brandon. I know it was a guy named Timmy.
Brandon.
No, but I believe that there was a Brandon too. But that's another one of those shows where like many companies have had their hands on it, and I'm trying to remember which version was which. So I know when 3Beep had it, I was Timmy. So Brandon was before that, probably. It's odd because that's one of those roles, and all the guys in Winx Club are very cookie cuttery and just we're the boyfriends. There's not really much going on there. But on the other hand, though, it's more of doing a voice that's kind of natural and not putting a character on it, which is rare for me because I'm usually screaming about something or doing some squeaky voice guy. So Brandon and Timmy, to a lesser extent, these guys were like young boys, young men that there wasn't really any affectations there. So that was kind of fun.
They kind of served their purpose. Like, I guess you felt like we felt on One Piece. I was
thinking about that. I was thinking, yeah. I understand your entire experience now as a woman. Yeah. Female, as a woman actor in the business, I understand it now. Brandon has opened these doors. My mind is open now. Thank you, Brandon, and Winx Club.
Everything you know about women, you learned from Winx Club. Before we let you get out of here, because it is late in New York right now, can you tell us? I mean, I know it was all downhill after 4Kids for you, but so you were there till the end. Could you see the writing on the wall? I was not still in New York during that time.
Well, the thing is that you probably remember when we mentioned that there was a time where there were 15 to 20 shows going on at the same time, and there was a lot of hustle and bustle, and it kind of looked like the bullpen of a newsroom, all those desks and all the cubicles. But over time, there'd be less activity, less noise, less people, and you'd think that was kind of strange. And we would go out, Greg and Dan and I and Tony, we'd go and meet Ted somewhere, and we'd be like, I was at 4Kids recently, and I saw the tumbleweeds. Like just passing through the hallway. So it was because you had left before that had happened, to see it slowly just become less and less over time. Yeah, that was a little disheartening. Because it was a really important part of my life professionally, and others too. People will say that we didn't have the greatest contract, but we had such great times. We had fun doing these shows. The shows have afforded us other opportunities that we wouldn't have expected otherwise. Like, we've been traveling because of these shows. Like, I went to Australia and got engaged. I mean, this is not something that would ever have occurred to me when I was going, he's from Brooklyn. Yeah, that's how he talks. I would never have thought that. And Dan and Greg and Ted, and Tony, these guys are like my best friends, and we hang out as often as we can, and we've been to each other's weddings. We've seen our kids grow up. It's just that show didn't happen, I wouldn't have these friends. So to see it go away over time it's sad.
Yeah. I mean, listen, reuniting with you guys the past couple of years, post-COVID, because it was hard. Leaving New York was hard, but being reunited with you guys is like, I look forward to that so much when we have conventions.
That
together.
Houston show, remember that?
Oh, so much fun.
It was like the first time that me, you, Greg, Darren, and Megan were like together since ever. That was really awesome.
Oh, I'm gonna get sentimental. I want to let you go, but I want to ask you. So, you've done some really cool stuff. In recent years, especially anime-wise, I know you did some Digimon.
I did do some Digimon, yeah.
I know. Did you feel naughty? I felt naughty the first time I worked on Digimon.
It did kind of feel like I was cheating on Pokemon, a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Wait, were you surprised that the Digimon spoke? Because that was my biggest shock. I go, wait, they talk?
Yeah.
I thought they all said their own names, yeah. Is there anything coming up that you want to tell us about, that you want to plug? I know you have conventions.
Yeah, it's mostly conventions these days, because a lot of the work that we do is back on that direct-to-video stuff, or like, Crunchyroll stuff. And
well, you work for NYAV Post sometimes. I see your name.
It's been a while, but they call me in for that every now and then, and those are always interesting jobs, because Mike finds interesting things, and he's a good director.
Yeah. Michael Sinter-Nicholas, that's his
very,
company. Yeah, they do find really cool stuff.
He's a precious director, too. It's weird, because a lot of times you do these things and you just, let's get it done and get the lip flap and be done with it. But he'll do take after take after take. He does lots of takes, and to the point where I'm like, it's 10:30. Can I stop? But I appreciate that.
You know what? And it ends up being good. I watched something back that I did with them that I remember getting, I love direction, but I remember getting frustrated and feeling like, because sometimes if it's like it's in a loop, and then you're like, oh, I can't even say those words anymore. I have to come back to those. But then I watched it. I'm like, oh, Stephanie was directing. I'm like, she was so right. She got me where I needed to go. Yeah. And
he gets NYAV. They're a good group.
You are not a big social media fella.
No.
But people can find you on Instagram.
Yes, they can. The real Wayne Grayson.
The real Wayne Grayson.
That's how you know it's me. It's real.
Because no one else can put
no one would ever say
real
that.
Wayne Grayson 2.
No one would ever say that.
Well, I just have one thing to say to you. Spaghettabout-It!
Hey, it's come full circle.
Steve, any final thoughts, questions, queries, insults before we let this nice man go?
Yeah, now's my chance to knock you down a peg. No, I appreciate a lot of, like, thank you for something like the great roles, the great voices you provided, like Joey, Mikey, Jaeger.
Jaeger.
Love them all.
Wait, no, Jaeger was the German. No, wait, yeah. No, wait.
Brocken Jr. was the German. Jaeger,
you're right. Brocken Jr.
Yeah.
was this guy. Jaeger talked like this, Red Rain of Pain. I remember this.
I bring this up because, this will eventually be out, but like I played through the Ultimate Muscle game with a friend a while back, and I'm just like, what character do you want to play in the story mode? And he chose Jaeger, and we were just, we're like listening to all the dialogue, and we're like, wow, Wayne Grayson just sounds like he's having the time of his life.
That was a fun show.
With like everything, yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's great stuff. Thank you so much.
Go to bed.
My pleasure.
Good night. Thank you, Wayne.
I'm gonna go to bed and see you on the convention circuit, Tara. Always a pleasure. Love y'all.
Spaghettabout-It. I'm gonna start using Spaghettabout-It in everyday life, I think.
I would love to try.
How do you think it's gonna go over?
For me, it's God, like everything I'm saying now is like, I'm getting to that age now where people are saying like, oh, that's a dad joke. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Spaghettabout-It is totally a dad joke, but I might embrace it.
That just means I'm like, ooh. It's like, I'm getting up there now when it's no longer just like, stop it with the stupid jokes. It's now stop with the dad jokes.
Right, because like it was better when you weren't at an age where you should be a father. So like no one would call it. Well, I guess I call it. Like even when a kid makes a dad joke, I'll call them out on it. But Spaghettabout-It. All right. But I do like all the names from Fighting Foodons, so I do enjoy some of that.
Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna have to just like go all in and revisit the show, and
that might be we might have to do a watch along on that.
Something, yeah.
Speaking of that, well, first of all, thank you, Wayne, because he is awesome. That was fun. I'm glad you got to meet my friend Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of stuff like watch-alongs, please check out our Patreon. We keep adding new stuff, and you can get episodes early, ad-free, cool other things like scripts and videos that are not available to other regular people.
Yeah, come check it out. Like Tara was talking about, we're getting some stuff sent our way, or just people are finding stuff, and I get a kick out of that, and we'd love to be kind of like I know it's like we're turning into an exhibit of some like 4Kids.
Yeah, it's like the 4Kids Museum. I'm trying to make our YouTube page just a collection of all the stuff that we can fairly and legally put on there, and if I can't post it legally, I will take it from like I have stuff from the Pokémon YouTube page. I can share it on our playlist so that we are not stealing it. So we're just trying to curate, I guess, is the right way to say it. We'll be your one-stop shop for all things 4Kids.
Yeah, I mean, I know like someone recently on Twitter was just like, hey, I heard you're looking for the One Piece Summer Bummer promos. I have a few recorded off of VHS, and I welcome that, send those our way.
Totally. Yeah, all that. I mean, but the 4Kids version of One Piece. You got the other version. Yes.
Oh, no, I should have been more...
I was like, you have to be specific.
Oh, it's specifically it's commercials from 4Kids era One Piece. Summer Bummer.
Yes. Wait, that was from...
Yeah.
It was?
That's what I meant. Yeah, it's a while back, I was saying like, man, like I was talking about these Summer Bummer like episode previews, and I'm like, oh, they're so hokey.
I gotta see this.
But I can't find them anywhere. And I think someone many, many months later was like, hey, I have some on a VHS, so
I love that. No, you guys are a huge part of the show. You really help us out when you send us stuff. And obviously with this interview, I got to even more of your questions, and they are good questions. So thank you guys for sending those in. Oh, you know what? You know what we didn't say? What our Patreon and website are.
We should do that right now.
We should do that. You should do that.
I should do that.
Because you're good at that.
Okay.
You are good at that.
Well, there's a website you could go to. That website is 4kidsflashback.com with the number 4. I almost wasn't going to remind you, but I'm just going to say again, put that number 4 in there.
Did.
Don't spell it out. There you could access all our episodes on there, all information, upcoming guests. But if you want just a little bit more, and by a little bit, I mean a lot more, go to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/4kidsflashback. The same. Don't forget that number 4. And there you get our episodes ad-free, week early, and some more bonus content, some video content, whatever we're finding, and we could put on there. We want to do that.
I just want to point out, Steve was sick in bed like 2 days ago, and he is rallied like a champ.
Yeah, straight up. I had COVID.
Sound great.
I finally almost like I made it almost 4 years, but yeah.
Oh man,
hit me like a wall. But then my job is podcasting, so.
I don't know when this is going to air, but he had a very social week. He was a social butterfly last week, and he has the pictures to prove it, and they're good. And
it was our hubris, though, because then it just
you just got cocky.
But you know what? No regrets. No regrets. And it's like I'm fully vaccinated, so no regrets.
Yeah.
If this was 4 years ago, it would be a little bit different, but.
Yeah, no, you came through like a champ, and we all appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for supporting us, and we'll
catch you next time.
4Kids Flashback is a production of Maji Media, hosted by Tara Sands and Steve Yurko.
Producers are Zach Logan, Tara Sands, and Steve Yurko.
For more information, go to 4kidsflashback.com. That is the number 4. And if you worked at 4Kids and have a story you want to share, please email us at 4kidsflashback@gmail.com.
You can find us on social media at 4kidsflashback, and to listen early and ad-free, head to patreon.com/4kidsflashback. For podcast merchandise, find links on our website and Linktree.
As they say on every podcast, if you liked this show, please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell your friends, or 4. If you want to check out other Maji Media podcasts, go to maji.media. Thanks for listening.